All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Playing School and fearless host. Is going to try and steer the ship today with my guest, who's en route from Lexington to Louisville. We got Chad Martin, director of baseball with Commonwealth Baseball Club. That's the Commonwealth of Kentucky. For those of you guys who aren't in the know. And owner of PPL, that is the Pitching Performance Lab out there in the Lexington area. Chad, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, like this is a pretty fitting time, me being on the road as normal on the phone, but with good company, of course.
Yeah, and in recording this for the world, or at least
right.
our parents and immediate family to listen to, which would be perfect.
Yeah, my mom's going to be pretty stoked.
I know. Mine is
share it
too.
On Facebook and
correct.
Have a party, have friends over. Yeah,
correct. A listening party. Right on, man. So you and I got to know each other. Probably like maybe 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Went out there and teamed up with you guys on some film on a weekend that we got blasted with rain. I do remember this. And you put in one of the I would call it a great effort to get this field playable, and it eventually was. So your work ethic was didn't go unnoticed or unappreciated.
I appreciate it.
As I'm out there flip flopping around in my flip flops, helping Zero.
That's what I was getting ready to say, though. I've had a couple people ask about you, and I said, yeah, the guy in flip-flops.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that day was pretty frustrating. I think, what did I say? I was out there at 5:30 because we got just absolutely wrecked by some thunderstorms for 2 days leading up to the videos. So the head coach of the high school, the field we were using, was awesome enough to let me go into their garage and get the drag and start working the infield, and it took a while, but yeah, also try to forget.
So, the listeners at home may have just noticed that Chad just went out for like a half a second. No big deal, but he's out there pounding the streets, driving through some country roads right now. So. If we do lose him, we'll get him right back on the line. So no fear. Chad, why don't you take a second, introduce yourself for those folks who maybe aren't familiar with what's going on in Kentucky baseball these days. Give your background, give your playing background, your coaching background, and then walk us up to sort of modern day with CBC and PPL.
Perfect. Yeah. So. I'll keep it brief, just like my pro career, haha. So yeah, I grew up here in Lexington, Kentucky. Baseball here has always been big. I wouldn't say it's like a cult following or anything, but everybody loves their baseball. So I'll skip through like all the Little League and Babe Ruth crap. I played at Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School in Lexington my junior year. We won state. Senior year, ranked up to, I think, first or maybe second in the state, and had a successful high school career. Funny enough, I'm doing all this pitching stuff. I was actually a better hitter than I was a pitcher.
Video, or else it's not true.
I'll try to find some. The guy, it's funny, the guy who I'm coaching with, Kevin Goins, he was my coach my 18-year-old summer. So, I'll get into that a little bit. I coached with him. It was the right time to make that change where I was a head coach in travel ball, and I'll get there. But I wanted to be a two-way guy. I wanted to pitch. I really enjoyed being in charge. I felt like hitting was hard. It was a lot of work, and it's not that pitching wasn't, but I wanted to be in charge. I really enjoyed being on the mound, And so JUCO was that opportunity for me. So I ended up going to Vincennes University in Vincennes, Indiana. Had some ups and downs. I was extremely sick with a couple different things my freshman year, so didn't really get a preseason, didn't play much in the spring because honestly I wasn't that good. Reevaluated some things, worked my absolute tail off over a summer, got to the point where I came back in the fall, had jumped, a good 8 miles per hour and had a lot of interest from some big time schools. Ended up going to Indiana University, played under Tracy Smith, Ty Neal, and was there for 2 years. 2012, got drafted 10th round by the Cubs. Played, like I said, pretty brief career, man. Delivery got changed, couldn't stay healthy. Ended up leaving with a pretty bitter taste in my mouth. Didn't want anything to do with baseball. Got a desk job. Wanted to make some money. Wanted to disappear, not be critiqued all the time. Got coaxed back into it, coaching a fall 10-year-old team. Which the crazy thing is, those kids just graduated high school this year.
Wow.
Pretty wild. I'm getting old. But yeah, I got into that and started doing some lessons, and we started doing some travel ball stuff. We actually bought the travel organization, that 10-year-old team that I coach. So from there it grew. We met gentleman Mark Huckel, who's on the board of Commonwealth Baseball Club. He owned the Bluegrass Express, and we came together and wanted to create something a little bit bigger and better, a bigger and better product with more resources for the players. Then Commonwealth Baseball Club came to that. So we've had Commonwealth Baseball Club since, we started it probably a month before we shot those videos, man.
Yeah, I remember when you guys formed that.
Yeah, you were one of the first calls. Drew Haney from Chicken Fried Baseball in Columbus, Ohio. He was the one that hooked us up, and it's funny I saw the value immediately, and we've talked recently about what you're doing for some of my high school pitchers in the facility. Like, there's a lot of value to what you do, and I know the college coaches appreciate things being in one space, and I certainly do as well. It makes it a lot easier for everybody. But yeah, man, that's the quick version. Lots of lessons learned down the line from my playing career and the coaching career, because I feel like I'm an okay coach now, but I was god awful when I first started.
Well, but, you're awfully self-deprecating, and it sounds like you had some adversity beyond baseball when you went to JUCO and you got sick. I'm kind of curious, having met you and felt really small standing next to you. I'm kind of curious. When did you hit? You're a big guy. I don't know how big you are. Are you? Maybe 6'4", 6'5"? Like what? How tall are you?
Oh, come on now.
6'2"?
6'7".
6'7". You kidding me? Okay, right. So when did you hit that growth spurt, and did that have anything to do with just either? I could see it two ways. Like, I could see it. Oh, that's when you became really good, or that growth spurt is what kind of created some issues and made it hard for you to figure out your body. Like, how did you deal with that?
So I would say between my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I wasn't a big kid or a small kid growing up. I was average for the most part. My parents might say I was a little bit taller than most kids, but I really wasn't the biggest kid on my team ever until, even my sophomore year, because we had some donkeys, in my high school program. But I grew probably 6 inches in a couple months.
Holy cow!
Was really goofy. Decided to take the fall off. Actually, we did some fall inter squads up at our high school field my sophomore year, and everyone was understanding because, it was a lot. I needed some time away from it to get some strength. But, I ended up pitching. They called me. A pitcher, bailed on them. They asked if I could throw. I ended up throwing a bunch of pitches after not throwing for a while. My ring finger and my pinky were both numb. I didn't say anything for probably a week, and then got diagnosed with a sprained UCL. And that was kind of where the adversity started, from a health standpoint. I didn't pitch much in high school, not necessarily because I wasn't healthy. Maybe, in the back of my head looking at it, now that I'm a coach, my coaches did want to make sure I didn't have an awful experience and re-injure my elbow, and they were a little more careful. I didn't throw any innings my junior year. I threw, I don't even remember, probably in the low to mid-teens of innings my senior year. And so when I went to JUCO, I was 6'5", 6'6" maybe. We'll talk about with our parents, on the travel ball side, but also the facility side is, I physically matured when I was 19. I didn't have hair on my face or anything when I went to college, and everything coming together at the right time really led for a recipe of success for myself. So, I understand that. I worked my tail off, but I also was physically maturing. So, it's definitely a late bloomer, for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's like a lot of times these kids, maybe their coaches or families, they need to realize to have some patience. They need to just have some patience because, you're not gonna be big and strong until you're big and strong.
Right.
And these kids today, they have way more info and access, and they know they're eating better, and they're hitting the weight room in a smarter, more controlled fashion. So you see so many of these kids, and I bet you have kids in your organization that you look at and you're like, I can't believe that kid's a high school kid. Because when I was playing, you don't see the physicality. You didn't see it back then, and now you're seeing high school kids who are pretty yoked.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit. You've told us a little bit about sort of the foundation of Commonwealth Baseball Club. Tell me, you're really been very focused on PPL, on the pitching performance lab, which seems to be, I think at least the vibe I get is that the training of pitchers is sort of what gets you out of bed in the morning. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so not to name drop, but I guess I will on this one. So, the current pride and joy of Lexington in Major League Baseball is Walker Buehler. And so we got hooked up probably, I think it was 2015, and we would throw every off season. And this is just backstory to how we got to PPL. And we just threw, and he would ask, what I saw, and we'd talk about it. And one day he asked if I wanted to go train with him, with his personal trainer, and I said sure. And so we went and did it, and we did some stuff that, honestly, I actually did in college. My college strength coach was awesome. He's Jason Robbins out at Arizona State, and he might be somewhere else now, but there were also some things where I was like, that's kind of interesting. And so the gentleman's name's Drew Watts. He's my business partner now. We sat and had a conversation one of those first days that I went in, and it was, talking about some of my struggles personally as a private lesson coach or instructor or whatever you want to call it, that we'll talk about probably later on down the road today, further into our conversation. But, basically what we do in a nutshell is we take we are integrating strength training and the skill training. So when a kid comes in, they're going to go through a screening first and foremost, a physical screening, and they'll go through a bullpen where we're getting like metrics and spin and movement profiles and getting some video, some high-speed video of them. And they'll also get the physical side where they're going through some exercises just so we can see what their body can do joint by joint and, have a better profile of how they move, just so we know what they're capable or not capable of. And then from there, we train them. I guess,
Mm-hmm.
we've had experience now where we know things that work based off of certain things that we see. We've had success with it, and so we have processes that aren't necessarily set in stone. They change because coaching, it can be hard at times for everybody. But over time, with so many athletes that we've seen, we've created some processes that seem to work. On average, and sometimes we'll have to jump in and get creative and make up some new stuff to try to get it to click with the athlete. But we've had a lot of success where they're pounding the same things, with their warm up, their pre-throwing, their throwing exercises, drills, whatever you want to call them, and then like some things are being modified for them in the weight room. So it's been a lot of fun to see these kids work and buy in. It's crazy that it's almost been 2 years since or it has been 2 years since we started doing that. So, that's it without getting into much more detail.
Got it. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's transition over to sort of what has morphed into my five sort of standard questions, and usually these open up a bunch more questions. And we're going to start with the softball. What book should every coach read?
I think if you're a baseball coach, and you're having to deal with pitchers, I'd say this is a tough one. I think there's a couple books out there that are really good and provide some good perspective, but the OG for me that really kind of got me rolling and questioning and wanting to learn more was Hacking the Kinetic Chain by Kyle Bodie. It was, something that detailed the pitching motion in a lot more depth than it had ever been detailed. Some of the things that I used to get better in that short time period, like I was saying in junior college, was Paul Nyman, Set Pro Sports. He had some resources out that I used that talked about rotational throwing, and it really helped me. It went against what I was taught, and really helped me. But Hacking the Kinetic Chain from a coaching perspective and being able to understand how to break down the pitching delivery and understand what's important, what's not. That was a groundbreaking book for me in terms of getting my coaching career rolling in the right direction. I think it's a good read if you're interested in pitching mechanics at all. I'd say it is kind of expensive, but maybe get a couple coaches to go in on it, and you won't be disappointed.
Cool, good. Any others? Any others to throw in there?
Yeah, I think we had talked about this guy a long time ago, Ben Brewster. He has building the 95-mile-per-hour body. That's phenomenal. And then Eugene Bleecker, who I got to know over quarantine, actually, through like some Zoom calls where we were talking with each other. He has old school versus new school, which I think is kind of a cool perspective, and he's trying to get everybody on the same page.
Am I right that he might have the best mustache in baseball?
I think that is a fact.
Maybe
hard fact.
Maybe beyond the sport of baseball.
I think it's top 5 in the world. It's phenomenal.
Strong.
It's pretty awesome. It's
strong. All right. Well, you dropped some names of some well-known guys in current baseball industry. So that's kind of cool that those three guys are putting out resources and information that you're holding to be such valuable. So cool.
Absolutely.
All right, number 2. What regret or failure changed the way you coach for the better?
So I'll talk about the facility first, like actually coaching pitchers. So, like I said, I coached myself to get better, and I did have good coaches. I'm not disregarding any of my coaching, but I went to outside resources and did some independent research to find ways to get better. And within that, I thought that my thought process was the only way to get pitchers better. And so doing private lessons, I'm cookie cuttering kids, and there's kids, I could get into the culture of a private lesson, or how parents want their kids to be coachable and how that can be really detrimental to their development at times. I'm not saying don't be coachable, but I'm saying if something doesn't feel right, you need to speak up. And so, I had kids that weren't getting better, and I was calling them soft, just like every old school guy, like, these kids aren't working hard enough. And, I had someone bring up someone who I played with in summer ball. He played at Penn State, but I played summer ball with him in Hamilton, Ohio. He brought up something to me, and it was actually driveline in their infant stages. I started looking into it and was like, and tried a couple things with some of my kids and started seeing them getting a lot better, a lot faster. And so I think the first day that I implemented a couple of the drills and the kids actually saying it felt good versus them just kind of looking at me like I was a moron, that was a big turning point in my career. And I even, have grown from there and modified stuff and try to modify stuff and make sure the kids are comfortable and understand that when they're coming to me that it's about them, it's not about me. I'm just giving them information and trying to outline it in a way that helps them understand it and puts their body in positions to make some successful, adjustments to their deliveries. But they're in the driver's seat. I'm not. I'm not driving the car. I'm just helping. I guess I'm the navigator.
Mm-hmm.
And then, from a coaching side, I thought about this one, and it's tough. I think when I started losing kids, because as a head coach, I started losing kids because I didn't pitch guys 3 times in a weekend. I very rarely would pitch guys 2 times in a weekend. If we had a Wednesday through Sunday tournament, I would. And we lost games because of it. And I think I really had development in mind, and people thought they liked, or their definition of development might not have matched up with what mine was. And that's my fault, from a communication standpoint. But at the end of the day, I wasn't going to wreck someone's arm like my arm, got wrecked. And it wasn't anyone's maliciousness. It was, just not paying
the
pitch.
Yeah, we lost you for a half a second. You're all right.
Go ahead.
I said we lost you for a half a second, but I think you're okay.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, when I started losing players because we weren't winning tournaments, and I was trying to make sure kids were taking things that we were talking about in practice and trying to get them to translate to the game. Yeah. They failed at it a lot. And it's not because of a lack of talent or whatever, but that's just development. Like, you're going to fail. And so, like I was saying, I don't know if I got cut off before I said it, but, my definition of development might have been different than the parents. But,
yeah.
After dealing with that for a couple of years and having turnover and all the time that I put in to get paid $1,500 this summer,
wow.
to pour into these kids, like, I was done being a head coach, and obviously the facility took off, and so I needed to spend more time there. But I think that was a big moment where I started understanding that I can't really change everyone's mind. I can try to educate them, but at the end of the day, like, I'm going to do my thing, and if people trust me, great, and I appreciate it. If they don't, there's other good coaches out there and other situations, and, best of luck.
Yeah, you know what comes to mind is when you're describing that kid who, and sometimes it's maybe the family, when you're doing this, what you think is development, and they buy into the idea of development, and then it goes right out the windows on, when the tournament comes, right?
Yep.
And it's like they don't see the forest through the trees. It's like they get out there and they just throw everything out the window,
Right.
which is kind of understandable. The juices get flowing. They want to win these games, but at what cost?
Right.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, and I think to clarify, like, at that point in time, I was coaching, which is now the Commonwealth Grays. It was the Lexington Grays, and I had some good players, but there were a couple other organizations in town, the Express being one of them, which is who I coach for now. It's who we joined up with to make CBC, Commonwealth Baseball Club. But like I had 4 good players on the field, and all these other teams had depth. There's 14-year-old teams with 18 kids that can all play, and I tried my best to develop the kids and get them to the point where I wanted them to play in high school and then beyond if they really wanted to play beyond. And there's a couple kids from that team, like I said, that graduated this past year. They were that first group that I had, that are playing in college that had successful freshman years. And it's awesome to see. And those were the ones that stuck it out. The ones that left, some of them have gone on to play, and some of them quit 2 years after or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's different than what I'm doing now. Like the 17U team that I'm heading up to this PBR Kentucky event, the showcase event. Like we have some studs on this team, and it's a showcase team. It's not necessarily a development team, but at the same time, like I'm spending time. Like we play at 1:45. I'm gonna get up here at probably 10:45. And I got some kids that live in Louisville that I'm going to help, before the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. A lot of people miss out on development. I get it. Like, I like winning. I know there's probably someone that's going to be listening to this that's like, that's soft. You got to teach kids how to win games. But I don't disagree. Like, there's a lot of value to being a winner and learning how to win. But, if a kid's dreams or desires or goals are to play at a high level and they don't throw hard and they don't throw strikes, well, we got to learn how to do that. And the hardest part is taking that leap of faith in a game, like having the courage to try it in a game and fail.
Yeah, no doubt.
I guess that's the biggest thing. I wanted my kids to get comfortable failing, because it happens all the time. Instead of having a negative relationship with it, embrace it. And that's when true development happens. That's when it happened for me. So, sorry, I went on and on.
No worries. Good stuff. Let's get to the next question here. How much midweek practice are you guys doing? And is it, team practice, team workouts, or is it individual? And this question is probably more specifically targeted towards CBC.
Right. So my age group, my 17-year-olds, we have kids from Bowling Green, and I know a lot of people probably don't know the geography or whatever of the state of Kentucky, but that's out west. That's 2 hours and 45 minutes away from us. Same with Owensboro, Kentucky. So we have like 7 Owensboro kids. We have 2 kids from Bowling Green. We have a couple kids from Louisville, from Lexington, and I'm probably forgetting some places, but because of that, it's hard to get everybody together at the same time. So we don't really practice as a team. Our other great age groups will on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. We have a college field, Transylvania University, which is a D3. They had a freaking stellar year this year. Zach Getze, Landon Steiner, all the other assistant coaches there have done a phenomenal job with that program. But but we use their field. So it's actually really, really nice. And so all the other age groups will practice there Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We don't, but, just like 2 days ago, I had 2 Bowling Green kids come and throw some bullpens with me. The pitchers will come throw with me. The hitters get their work in, and then we just strap it on and get after it on the weekends.
Yeah. Got it. This is a question I love asking people. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's just starting a travel team or just about to open up a facility?
Okay. I think I can do both of those. So one piece of advice, I guess the biggest piece of advice for someone wanting to start a travel team is why? Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And if it's financial, then don't do it, because you're going to gripe and complain about all the hours that you have to put in, with the behind-the-scenes stuff, the booking the tournaments, talking to tournament directors, being in charge of all your coaches, talking to parents, fielding complaints, and we we do that all the time. We have, I think, 5 board members, 3 of us being like founding members, and I think us 3 deal with that a lot. And I get it; it's a business. Like, there's expectations, but it doesn't bother me because I still do this because I want to develop players and help them achieve their dreams. So, I'm talking to parents as part of that. I'm not available 24/7, which some parents think I am, but I think that if your why is not there, the reason why you're doing it, then it's going to be a bad experience, for everybody involved for the most part. I'd say something similar on the facility, but I think like with baseball, a lot of people are all gung-ho about opening cages, and they have different ideas than people, and that's awesome, and we embrace that, and they want to start their own thing, and that's the awesome part about being in America. You can do that, but having a plan for when it is not a busy season is super, super important if you're going to open a facility. So, with our model of what we do at our facility, we still had close to 100 kids coming in the spring to get work in, and now that's like different for every person based off of how much they're pitching, but they're getting their in-season lifts in. They're getting to talk and break down some video and talk about their outings and learn, from their experiences in games and us shedding light on certain things that they could be doing differently. But there's a lot of places like the old place where I don't even know. I don't think you got to come over there.
No.
The old facility that we had back when you were doing the videos for us. Well, I mean, like the spring was devastating. We were in a really good area that cost a little bit of coin to be in, and during the spring it was like, man, we weren't doing much, and we didn't have pitching machines, and it was tough financially on us. And we made it through somehow, but I think that's the biggest thing. It's awesome to be able to have a facility and call it your own, and if you have kids, like, be able to go and use it like whenever you want, or if you have a team, be able to go and use it whenever you want. But I mean, you don't want to like put yourself into a ton of debt because you don't have a plan for when it's slow months and kids are out playing baseball.
Without a doubt, you know what I mean. These you better be prepared, because when you want to go be the boss, guess who's responsible for everything? You are. So it's almost like it's a cautionary tale. You're giving some warnings here. Is maybe for some guys, being the number 2 is probably the best thing for them. And if you want to be the number 1, if you want to be the head honcho, just realize it comes with head honcho responsibilities. And ultimately you're the guy in charge and you're the guy responsible. For sure. I'll tell you one thing that you and I talked about when the world began to shut down, spring 2020. We talked a lot about the facilities that are membership model versus facilities who are selling one lesson at a time.
Right.
And I think you've been one of the guys who was membership model, sort of out in front of that thing, and it just makes sense from a facility standpoint. I've talked about that with past guests. It's like, group training and membership model to me is the smartest way to run a baseball facility. It's funny that one of the obstacles to that is still parents at the end of the day, because they think that the individual lesson is going to make their kid better than a lesson with 5 really good dudes all sitting there competing and getting better. So hey, so charge them more is basically the answer. So,
well, yeah, I could talk for days about this, and that's something where in Lexington, in our community and surrounding areas, there are people that have bought into it, and there's people that want to come in 7 days a week now. People that were hesitant, that had done private lessons, and every time they made an adjustment, it was during a bullpen with a instructor, and that was how I used to do it.
Yep.
I did that. I get it. But when I quit doing that and charged less, and it's like they can come in 2 times a week, get 2 lifts in, train for 2 hours on the pitching side, for less than 3 private lessons.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. The kid's going to get so much better because of the reps, the consistency. And like you said, the competition, man, is just unbelievable when you get kids close to the same talent level and age and work ethic all in the same spot. And it's fun to watch them help each other, like a kid that was on the 5th travel team and was terrible and no one wanted him, and he got a chance because his dad knew somebody, and now he's the stud, teaching everybody. Those are really fun things that go along with doing the group training. Plus, it's the model for development. It doesn't happen in 30 minutes.
Correct.
You go to college, I tell my kids this all the time, the 16-year-olds that are coming off of private lessons, private lessons are great, and I'm not knocking anybody who does them, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that do them well. Me personally, my experience with them has, from what I've seen, the kids that come from private lessons to us have a certain dependency on coaching to be able to perform, which I can understand. But at the same time, I tell them, you're getting ready to go to college in the next couple of years. How many pitching coaches do you have? And some of these kids think they have 3 pitching coaches in college, which is crazy. You're lucky if you have one, and you have a coach that has some history of coaching pitchers or was a pitcher, right? But you're going to have upwards of 18 guys on your pitching staff at some places, maybe more, depending on the level of school.
Yeah,
it's an 18-to-1 ratio. You can't ask your coach for a private lesson to get better, and I get that. The parents are wanting to put their kid in a situation to get them better and learn, and I totally understand that. It sounds like I'm ripping on people, which you can read into whatever you want to read into, but I get it. I get it from them wanting their son to have a leg up on the competition, but I'm going on record and saying I used to do that, and for the price, did I get kids better once I started learning how to actually coach and what mattered? Yes, but have my kids gotten a lot better since I switched to a group lesson membership model? Absolutely, especially including the strength training with Drew Watts. It's ridiculous how much better they're getting.
I'm telling any young coach, any old coach, any coach, period, who's running the facility and doing lessons, you don't have to switch your entire business model in one day. But if you've got a whole bunch of dudes doing private lessons, you should consider switching over some of those guys to small group lessons. It's honestly, it's a win-win. Everybody wins. The player gets 4 other good people around them if you're doing groups of 5. Let's just say, use that for the example, to compete with, to learn from. Mom and dad pay less money per hour for the training, and the coach makes more money for the hour of training. Everybody's winning. It's such a smart model, and I hope people are beginning to implement, because it just makes so much sense inside the baseball facility to be working like that. So anyway, we could beat this dead horse for a while. So let's ask this 5th question here and see where this takes us. This is a magic wand moment. Let you if you're in charge of all the travel baseball industry. So what one change do you think could be made to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
I think about this all the time, and I'm sure if anyone listening to this follows me on Twitter, I've been a little less active over the past probably year and a half, 2 years. But back around when we were starting CBC, I was a little more vocal with a lot of my thoughts, and I've matured and have learned to sit on things a little bit more before writing and typing them out and sending them. But I think at a point in time, I thought like a classification system where, like we talked about earlier on this call, like actual development, like what's a showcase team, what's a development team, and having classifications. But people are paying money. They're not going to want to hear that they're on a development team versus a showcase team. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to be the showcase team. So that might not be the answer. It probably isn't. I think I've come back to this a lot of times, and I've had this conversation with local guys, and I think, it's so watered down in a lot of different areas where, some people listening to my roster thinking like, man, you got guys coming from 3 hours away to play on your travel team, and you guys don't even practice. Like, that's kind of where travel ball is at some age groups here in Lexington. Like, there are certain age groups, like, we have Commonwealth Baseball Club, we have Kentucky Baseball Club, we have Mid-America Prospects, we have Canes, Kentucky. Like, there's good teams at every age group. But it's like, man, there's also some age groups where there's like 4 good kids on every team, and if we came together, like, we could figure something out and have it less diluted, I guess, where we don't have to travel as far away and we can play better teams and stay more local versus having to spend all this money. I talked to, this was a couple years ago, and it was a parent who also coaches for Kentucky Baseball Club. And he said he spent $7,000 in travel. And like, that's crazy.
What age group? Do you remember what age group he was talking about?
I think they were 16. His son's in college now, and he's a college coach now. But it was like, I'm pretty sure he said around $7,000. And it's like, we've done some clinics, with some kids that can't afford to even like come in and train with us monthly, and like those kids are getting pushed out. Like, and there's some good athletes, man, that just lose interest in baseball because they're just priced out. Like, and there's no opportunities for them. They don't have the field. They don't have the team, the coaching, and it sucks. And so I think like there's a lot of problems that can be solved by becoming more local, and that's where I'm talking about getting into it for the right reasons, man. Like, I'm in it because I want the kids to be good, because I had that dream, to be really good, and I don't care what the price tag is, as long as like we get stuff paid. Everyone who deserves to get paid gets paid, and we're getting kids better. Like, it is like that's what I want. With all the travel and the cost of tournaments now, like the player fees are higher than ever because they have to be. Like you have to account for those expenses, and then like the travel like is something that people don't think about necessarily when they sign up for it.
Well, I'll tell you what,
meals.
I've thought about it a lot, and I've said it on this show. Is travel baseball has a reputation of being expensive, but there's two parts to it. There's the baseball part, which comes at a cost, but it's the travel part that can crush people. And I feel like I've maybe told this story 4 or 5 times lately, just to friends as well as maybe on the show. Is we've had some guests out of the Midwest, and the guys from the Hitters, the guys from Illinois Indians with Nelson Gordon and his crew up there. Man, there's something different. There's something different out there. It's they rock the 15-passenger vans, and so the difference is like those families are like pretty cool with just like sending their kids by themselves for the weekend. And the reason I say this is because to pay for your kid to go away for the weekend is way different than paying for a family of 4 to go away for the weekend. You know what I mean? And if listen, I don't want to miss anything my kid does. I want to go. But when it comes to the point where it's like stressing you out financially, maybe you got to reconsider if you're going to go every single weekend. Let the kid go on his own and bunk up with another family or another kid, which is what, again, a couple of these guys out of the Midwest are doing. Is just they're traveling as a team and they're shacking up in the hotel as a team, just like a college team would be, and they're going 3 or 4 guys deep in a room, and you can save a ton of money doing it that way. That's at the older age group, obviously the age group that you and I kind of mostly deal with, but the younger age group really confuses me because I'm like, why does an 8U team from Richmond, Virginia have to drive down to Raleigh to play? There's teams right here. Like, why do you have to drive across state lines when, like, we have really good baseball right here? Right here. Right. You can play, and then you can head to the pool and get a rocket pop at the concession stand. You don't have to, like, there's no, like, 2 nights in hotels and 6 meals on the road. Like, that's where the expensive part comes in. So,
right.
It's.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the vans, that's an awesome idea. That's definitely something to consider to cut some expenses for the families. But yeah, like I played Cal Ripken. Like, we didn't have travel ball.
Correct.
We had our all-star team, and we would just go outside and play all the time. I get it, like there's a lot of different perceptions on what travel baseball should be, but I understand that. And a lot of parents want to put their kids in the best situation, and they think that playing the best talent is how you do that. And I don't disagree. Like, you get better. But like I was saying, are we showcasing or are we developing? And there is a little bit of development that goes along with playing better teams. Like, if you're playing terrible competition, like you're probably not going to get any better. But at the same time, if you're not trying new stuff, you're never raising your ceiling. You're just like maintaining your floor. You know what I mean? In terms of your talent level or your career. And we want to push the ceiling. We don't want to just maintain our floor. We want to push everything forward.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, why are you paying to play?
Yeah.
Because you could go play Babe Ruth or Cal Ripken and have a blast and just play some games.
Yeah.
But I'm crazy. Everyone thinks I'm crazy.
Likewise. Well, listen, man. I want to wrap this up. I got two more of these to do today, so I got to stretch it out in between. I'm trying to go CG today, so gotta stay loose. Listen, what do you have any other kind of parting words of wisdom for any coaches who might still be on the line 50 minutes into our conversation?
Yeah, I thought you said we were going to be like 30 minutes.
I thought I did too.
No, I'm a big time talker. I know you are as well. That's a deadly combo.
Yeah.
But, no, I really appreciate you having me on. It's about damn time. I know you've been doing this for 3 years or 2 years. But yeah, I think the hardest part, for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people have experienced this, is that moment when I think Randy Carlson, who I met down in Charleston, South Carolina, but the moment when he realized he knew nothing was probably the the biggest moment in his career. And we've all had that. And, I think what I would say is, this game is very tradition-based. It's very traditional. And, you see that with guys screaming about bat flips. And there's some bad things going on. I don't disagree completely. But, I think having an open mind in today's game with the kids that have a little different stimulus on a day-to-day basis than we did, even though I grew up with some technology. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 15, I think. I think being open-minded and being open to new information, not necessarily abandoning what has made you a good coach to this point, right? Like, I think about some of my coaches, college, professional baseball, that were what most people would tab as old school. Like, they were really good for me. They pushed me. They were very knowledgeable about baseball, and there's a lot of value to that. But if you're trying to continue to grow your players, you have to continue to grow yourself, and that's the toughest part is, I struggle to find time. But, I made the smart aleck little comment of I'm not available 24/7. Some people think I am. Well, people think I just go on the weekend, coach for 3 hours a day, and I'm in the facility for a couple hours. Well, you can ask my wife. I'm working 15, 16-hour days because I'm, responding to messages. I'm watching video. I'm talking to college coaches. I'm talking to my buddies that are still playing. I'm talking to whomever to try to get better. And, I would say if you have the expectation of your players getting better, it's a good thing to try to get better yourself. And I've become a way better coach being in that mindset versus just being completely traditional and coaching the way I was coached. And I get that's how a lot of it happens. But, I think that's a big part of the game. And that's how, I had coaches that told me to buy in, and it was like, why? Buy into what? Mm-hmm. And I hate those words. I'd never say buy in. Hey, you have to buy in. Mm-hmm. I think you earn buy-in from your players by showing them that, getting them better first and foremost, and then earning that trust. And they buy in 100% and work their butts off for you. So, it's a culture thing. Yeah. But, that would be it. I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
No worries, man. No worries. No worries. I'll tell you what. Why don't we wrap it up there? I think it's a good spot to stop. Appreciate you coming on. Hang tight for 1 second. I'm just going to end the recording, but I'm not going to hang up yet.
Okay.